Okay, so welcome to Thanos Node. And today I have Maxime Beauchamp with Cloudmos. And a very short bio for Maxime is as thus. Maxime has spent his career building powerful and easy to use products that affects the lives of many. As co-founder of Cloudmos, together with his partner, they've built a well-known deploy tool that enables workload deployments on Akash, the world's first decentralized cloud compute marketplace. Cloudmos is also a validator within the Cosmos ecosystem, and Maxime also serves on the Akash Accelerator advisory board. With that being said, Maxime, welcome.
Thank you, Alani, for the introduction. I'm glad to be doing that podcast with you today.
All right, that's awesome. So I'm going to get right to it. So if I may ask, what was your very first experience within the Cosmos ecosystem?
Sure. Yeah, it goes back to early 2021. It was the full-on bull run at that point, and I was just researching projects, and then I stumbled upon the Cosmos ecosystem. And back then, there was no osmosis. There was no Akash mainnet. It was just there wasn't even IBC yet, so it was mainly just Atom staking and Akash staking. So it was really with I bought AKT early, some AKT just to get my hands onto the technology, and I staked it like early 2021. So that was really my first experience with the Cosmos ecosystem. And then after that, a bunch of stuff happened. The Akash mainnet, and then the release of IBC, which was huge. I thought it was it is a game changer, but back then it wasn't launched yet, so it was all speculation. And in the end, I think it worked out well. And after that, osmosis, and I guess the rest is history.
That's pretty interesting, actually, because do you find it easier for people to stake now compared to then? And is staking more rewarded today than it was a year or two ago?
Hard question to say, because I'm so now aware of how things work that for me is super easy. But for new users, I'm guessing it's easier with because the way Kepler and all the new tools available to simplify the staking experience. So I think it's easier. It's just a matter of fiat on ramp, I guess, at this point, how easy it is from your location to get from fiat to crypto. And then after that, it's super easy to stake your tokens. And your second question was about the staking APR. For sure, today it's less. Well, it depends on the chain, I guess. There's some new chains that just launched that have higher returns than previously. Because, for example, Akash, when it launched, the APR was something around 80% per year, and now it's down to 15%, I think. Somewhere like that.
That's interesting. So, which leads me to something I've always been curious about. The intersection between fiat and crypto. Do you think people would embrace Web3 and decentralization more if the on-ramp started with fiat and then they can transition to crypto? Or do you think, we have to be maximalist and just keep it at crypto?
I'm not necessarily a maximalist, because I don't think it's necessarily realistic, because this is such a huge change in behavior and how things work that it takes time. It's going to take time no matter what to transition from the Web 2 mindset to the Web 3 mindset. So I think it's inevitable to have a natural progression from having fiat, which is what everyone's used to have anyways, to having crypto. So I'm not a maximalist, that's for sure.
That's interesting,
In
because
the
I've
end,
always
maybe.
found that sometimes you want to gift people crypto. And while gifting it is easy, it's always challenging because you don't know if they even have a Kepler wallet, if they have the right wallet, right?
Yeah.
Which leads me to another question here, right? What's your most memorable gift when you were a young kid? What do you remember the most?
Good question. My memory of my kid moments are a bit blurry, but for sure, my most memorable is definitely when I got my Super Nintendo.
Really?
I got
You
a
still
Super
have it?
Nintendo. Yeah, I got it was brand new. I got a Super Nintendo, and then for sure I got hooked to video games. And my second, well, I guess equally first best memorable gift would be a desktop computer, which was a family computer back then, but it was in late 1990s, so the internet was getting popular at that point. So it was at that moment that I really got hooked up to the internet. I wasn't necessarily dabbling in programming and stuff, but I was just playing with MSN back then, chat apps with my friends, and just video games online. It really got me hooked up to just computers in general.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I remember my first was an Atari,
Oh,
and I broke it. That wasn't fun. I had to explain a million different ways why I wasn't the one who broke it. But yeah, tough lessons. And then I got a Nintendo after that, a Game Boy, actually. I still have that Game Boy, and I finished Super Mario Land and Super Mario World, all 12 levels. And it was really cool. At the time, it felt like an accomplishment, but that's very interesting. Wow. So, shifting gears, we know Hertzner decided to remove Web3 and crypto from their platform.
mm-hmm.
And I'm very curious because you're at the nexus of the Cosmos ecosystem. You guys build tools daily, you deploy almost weekly updates, and you're also a validator. And you understand the intersection between Web 2 and Web 3 and why, we have to ensure that we always bridge those two worlds. So when Web 2 and centralized platforms decide to remove crypto and Web 3 from their platform, I want to know your thoughts on this, because this is a major issue going on right now as more and more people look at what options are available to them. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. It's a huge issue, and something that it's one of the risks, I guess, of not having a censorship resistant cloud platform that we've all been warned before. Like that at some point, these are the risks of crypto in general. If the power right now decides to ban crypto, or just not let it run this on the cloud providers, it's one of the risks of investing in crypto. But I think now with Akash, and it's the best alternative to hosting your validator infrastructure and basically all the tools that run the crypto world, to be able to not have to worry about making sure if the provider is going to not allow you to run a specific workload on their provider. I think it's a huge opportunity for Akash to gain more awareness and adoption. But yeah, it's definitely a big issue right now. If AWS or GCP and all the other big cloud platforms decide to ban crypto, well, obviously everyone's going to have to move to another destination, because I don't think people because I think it's just going to put like fuel on the fire at this point. If they start banning everything, crypto enthusiasts like myself will find other solutions. And right now it's great because there is other solutions like Akash. That makes sense.
That's very insightful. So do you believe then that if we look at validators as we go from proof of work to proof of stake, do you think validators should lead by example by deploying part or most of their infrastructure on Web3, even if they still maintain some Web2 presence?
I think it's a good way to show that you are aware of the issue and that you care about using the solution that is available to you and just it's a good risk management on a point of view of a validator to not have to receive, like, I don't know how they enforce those rules, Hetzner's. I'm not sure how it works exactly, but I'm guessing if they found out that you run, they just shut down your account. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. We are trying to move some of our infrastructure to Akash right now. The biggest challenge is that there isn't that many persistent storage providers, and it's not that bad, I guess, to host a pruned node on Akash without persistent storage. The main issue without persistent storage is that every time you update your deployment, doesn't necessarily happen that often. But when you update it, or when you want to do some changes, or the provider stops it for some reason, it's gonna have to resync or re-download from the start, compared to persistent storage that your node state keeps the same between updates and stuff. And yeah, we're definitely putting efforts towards that. We also have a full node that we are currently migrating to Akash. Full nodes are a bit trickier because they actually contain the whole blockchain. So the blockchain is huge. Every day there's a few thousand blocks. I don't remember exactly the amount of blocks that get added every day, but it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger, and it's the reason why we are able to show stats since the very beginning, is because we have a full node. So yeah, we are in the process of transitioning infrastructure to Akash, and I strongly suggest to other validators to do the same. At least try, and if you have some roadblocks, ask for help, or because there's ways to do it the right way, for sure.
Yeah, that's actually very interesting, because the validator community is very close-knit and very transparent, especially when we think about governance and frameworks, right? Which leads me to another, curiosity, because we have situations where validators are quick to lecture people on Web3, but most of their infrastructure runs on Web2.
Yeah.
What's your take on this particular problem?
Well, I guess it's called virtue signaling. I guess you say something and don't apply it, but that's a problem in every piece of the society. I guess the problem, well, the solution is just to actually do it, but I'm not sure exactly how to enforce that, or how to have more accountability from providers who actually say these kind of things and don't actually apply it.
So that leads me to, if I may switch gears for a second, at what point did you realize and decided, I want to work full time in crypto. I want to start building applications. I really want to help scale the adoption of Web3 and decentralization on a global scale. And I want to start with Cosmos because what you guys have been doing is tremendous, game changing in many ways. And I know you guys are on a growth trajectory. I mean, you can't talk about Cosmos or Akash without talking about Cloudmos. You guys started as Akashlytics and you've grown tremendously to the point where now, you're entertaining, possibly fundraising, venture cap, different things you guys are doing. And at what point did you decide, you know what, I'm just going to do this full time and take it to the moon?
Yeah, it's a good question. For sure, like I was saying earlier, when I discovered Akash, it was before the mainnet, so it was super exciting to actually test out the product and see how it works and what can you do with it. I was already fairly decent with Docker back then, so I was eager to just start running whatever workload on Akash. And when it launched, it was great, but there was a lot of pieces missing. Not everybody is super comfortable with the CLI and all the super techie stuff that you have to do to deploy. And then this is when we started. First, yeah, I started with my partner Max back then. We made Akashlytics, which is just a way to view the adoption. It was really just the stats that you see on the dashboard today, like the number of deployments and number of CPU, RAM, or storage leased on the network. And back then, everyone was complaining that it was super hard to deploy on Akash. And this is when we just decided to start doing some research on how to actually implement a GUI to deploy on Akash. And at the same time, it was a super funny timing because just as we started doing that research and development, Akash did a hackathon to build a deploy tool. And we just jumped in and went full on extremely fast development to make something happen as fast as possible. And we ended up being able to build the first version of Cloudmos deploy, and which is kind of hard because the Akash code is all written in Golang, and you can't. Well, back then there was a Tom Bailon's GUI that was the most popular. It was mainly just a Docker container that you'd run locally, and in that Docker container, it was running the CLI in the backend. So it was just you would just click on the UI, and in the backend, it would call the commands on the CLI to create a deployment and create a lease and all that stuff. And what we wanted to do was to avoid having to explain everyone how to run a Docker container on their computer to be able to run the deploy tool. So we implemented all the logic that is in Golang in JavaScript to do it in Electron or in the browser. And so yeah, there was a lot of reverse engineering, just reading the Golang and port it to JavaScript. And we ended up winning the hackathon, which is something like 15 or 10,000. I don't remember exactly the amount. So that gave us a really good boost in terms of motivation and just seeing the feedback from the community. That was super excited to actually be able to try deploying stuff on Akash. People were deploying just random things from the Awesome Akash games, whatever, WordPress. Not everything was working perfectly, but you could see that there was an interest from the community to start building. And then Fast forward a few months, we applied for the grant, the first grant, which was $100,000, and I was working full time. Like the whole time, I was working full time at my previous job, software engineer job, just as at a local company here in Montreal, and I was not very how do you say it? I was not very excited to work there necessarily, and I was just excited to end my 8 hours there and start working on the Akash Accelerator back then. So usually when I find something that I'm excited to do and it doesn't seem like it's work, I just put on my focus on that, and because that's how you end up being happy in life. You don't feel like it's work, and you actually work and produce stuff. And yeah, we got the grant, and I left my job in December 2021. Yeah, and started working full time on our projects in early January 2022. So,
all right. So, which makes me, that's actually interesting, because I know you speak multiple languages, English and French, at least two.
Yeah.
Yes. And I know that you also, you enjoy the outdoors, you travel, you do a lot. So how do you balance, being very busy and, building tools and deploying and testing and supporting and interacting and doing Twitter spaces and and podcasts like this with, a personal life? Because I know you recently moved, right? Because I can see you on your stairs. So
yeah,
how do you balance all of that?
It's a good question. Well, I just try to work as much as I can when I can, and when I don't work, I try to most of the time disconnect and enjoy life, because life is not just about working and just working. So, well, it's a preference, I guess. Some people are happy to work 24/7, and some other people are happy to have a better balance. I'm more of I guess 80%, 80, 20% percent, 80 being the work and 20% enjoying life and doing stuff with my girlfriend and friends and stuff. So it's a matter of focus, because you can achieve a lot in the 80% of the time that you're working and not enjoying or doing other stuff in life. So yeah, it's how I stay, or at least try to stay maximum productive with the hours that I work.
All right. So is your girlfriend also an engineer?
Sorry, no, she's not actually. She's a chiropractor.
So all that stress, she just cracks your bones and life is normal again.
Yeah, that's how it works. It's one of the secret sauce of a chiropractor.
That is awesome. So which leads me, oh man, I wish I could talk to her, because I have a question about the Y strap. I've been seeing a lot of YouTube videos about the Y strap. They put it on your neck, you lay on your back, they pull, and everything cracks.
I haven't seen it, to be honest. Not sure what it is. But
Google Y strap chiropractor.
I can look it up, yeah.
There's so many YouTube videos on it.
But yeah, to add on to like the focus, I think it's very important. Well, it's very important to take care of your body to be able to have that focus, because we've all been into some places in our lives that we took less care of our body, and we all know that it feels bad, and you're not focused, you're not productive. And as soon as you start working out and just having a better focus on your health first, it really helps to be focused and productive. So it really is also one of the most important things, to take care of your health first.
So, did you find the Y strap?
Oh my God, I did. It looks looks dangerous. They use it to actually do the adjustments.
That's correct.
And you don't need a Cairo to do that, or it's the Cairo that actually does the adjustment? I'm guessing it's the Cairo.
Well. Any kind of adjustment, I would advise to have a Cairo do. Don't have your best friend do an adjustment. That would be a very bad idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
So I'm going to switch gears for a minute. Your partner, Maxime, he is what I call the man in the shadows, right? He camera shy. He doesn't do a lot of. I mean, we've been on many calls together, but I'm just curious. Does he have a shy personality? He just doesn't do a lot of camera time.
I don't think he's necessarily shy, but he's definitely an introvert on the very on the spectrum of introvert and extrovert. He's like very introvert. He's not shy necessarily. It's just prefers. I mean, if we'd ask him to jump in with a webcam and start talking, he'd do it. But that's not like what he's best at, I guess. And we try to. That's why we're a good team, because we try to we're good accomplices. We complete each other in terms of skill and what we do. So we're a great team.
That's awesome. So I'm going to switch gears again. And this is one question I've always, I've asked it because I interact with hundreds of validators across all of Cosmos, and they are validators and they are builders. And somehow at Cloudmos, you guys combine both. And I know that Cloudmos as an entity is very highly valued today, and occupies a very important role, not just within the Akash ecosystem, but across all of Cosmos. Because today, when tools are built, one of the common questions we see is, how is this going to work with Cloudmos? Which is powerful signaling, So my question is, do you think validators can be profitable without having to also build tools and find new revenue streams?
It's a very, very hard question to answer, but if I can talk from experience, I guess it depends where you actually host your validator. I've seen for example, Notional. They are very very I don't know the word exactly, but they host everything on bare metal servers. And it doesn't seem like it's very expensive. Like you can build a validator with $1,000, I think, and once that $1,000 is paid off, you can run it forever. Compared to the cloud, where it's cheaper because it's per month per use, and after a few months, you end up paying more than the actual server. And doing it that way, it's a lot more expensive, and especially in bear market times, it's not profitable to validate, especially if you're not in the top 10 of validators. So it really depends on what the APR is and where are we in the market cycle. Definitely harder in the bear market. So for sure, it's a business being a validator. So I don't know why you wouldn't be finding other revenue streams as a business if you could. So I guess that's my take on it.
Yeah, that is an interesting take. That's a very interesting take. I do believe in strong business models. I do believe that everything we do should come with a full analysis of the operating factor, the capital expenditure factor, and what the revenue model is. You know, also, do you, let me just ask, who are your favorite validators aside from Cloudmos?
Do you mean specifically on Akash or in the broader Cosmos ecosystem?
In the broader ecosystem.
Okay, yeah, there's a few. There's many, well, I know a bunch of them, and there's a lot that do amazing things that people are not even aware, like running relayers, running infrastructure for just the blockchains themselves, providing backups and stuff. But from our point of view, the ones that I think stand out the most, for sure, Chandra Station. They're great. They provide a lot of value to the other validators and stuff. EcoStake, Tom, he's kind of a bit of the same profile as us. He's a builder and validator. And he does a bunch of tools like Restake and stuff that helps stakers stay stakers for longer time and stay with their validators. For sure, Notional, they are big contributors to the Cosmos ecosystem, and I see Jacob all the time on Twitter saying stuff, getting involved, and just helping anyone that would require help. He's like always upfront and just available. There's also Polkachu. We use their backups all the time. They've been super helpful. And back when Akash upgraded from mainnet 2 to mainnet 3, there's others that I'm missing, and I would like to say, but I don't remember them all. But yeah, there's a ton of great validators, but at that point, and for sure on Akash, Praetor and Moultrie that add value to the Akash ecosystem. It's always nice to have other validators that build and help with the adoption.
That is interesting, and that's a very good point. I see Jacob's post all the time, very active actually, and I see many others as well. Moultrie. I love the work.
Stakecito also super good guy for the marketing and awareness. I think he's one of the main organizers of Cosmoverse. He's like basically on every chain. He's probably have a team with him, but I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton more validators that provide a lot of value. There's a lot of them.
So your new deploy tool, I know that you're bringing a lot of functionality downstream, things like sorting providers, searching for provider by URL, search deployments by name, and all of that. Do you think user experience is going to be the next big thing in Web3 and blockchain as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. As we all know, in crypto, the UX has always been the big challenge because it's such a revolutionary technology, and it's based in cryptography, so something that's not necessarily easy to understand. But I think for sure, in the coming years, it'll be a very huge game changer when everything like from the base layer of the blockchains and stuff will be easier to interact with or completely abstracted. Like some platforms, some of the most successful platforms are the ones that usually right now make abstraction of how keys are generated or keys are kept, security, or just how you do transaction and stuff. So we focus, we try to focus on making the user experience as good as possible. We're working on multiple tools simultaneously. So from the deploy tool standpoint, our goal is to really make it as seamless as the Web 2 clouds currently. But to get there, it's a bit challenging because right now it's a bit the other way around how you would deploy compared to the Web 2. Like the Web 2, you just click create a deployment, for example. You'd select where you want to host it, and you'd see the price already, like, oh, I'm going to pay that amount to host it there, and just deploy it, for example. Compared to a cache that you have to specify first the SDL, which is something that we are trying to simplify with our new SDL builder and new tools that will be available soon. But you have to start with that, specify your resources that you want to lease and how you want to be deployed, and also you don't specify right away. Well, you specify where you want to host it by specifying attributes filter, but currently it's something that is getting worked on because I had a meeting with the guys from Akash previously, and we it was Anil. I always get confused with Alani Anil, so very similar. But Anil, he made we made with the Praetor guys and all three, we made a attribute schema for providers to have the same attributes, because that's a huge issue right now. Because right now, the providers, when they create a provider, they can just specify whatever attributes they want to have, but that's how tenants filter or specify where they want to host it, or what type of hardware, how much bandwidth they have, just all the very important metadata about providers are not standardized, but we are working on standardizing them. It's something that I think will drastically increase the UX, just to be able to, with a drop down, for example, click on, oh, I want to host my workload on US East. Right now, it's like you have to add an attribute, have the right key for the attribute and the right value to be able to filter for a location, for example, or other data center metadata. So yeah, it's one of the, I think, frictions from Akash that we are aware of, and we want to work on to make it as simple as the Web 2, so that the transition is not hard and easy, and then you can just compare the two and be like, okay, why wouldn't I pay 90% less if it's the same thing and it's as easy? Because one of the things that I realized, just speaking with the friends that are software engineers as well, they have one of my friends I talked this weekend, he's working at a company, and they have a marketing product, and he showed me his AWS cloud bill, and it was something around like 25K per month on products that could technically be hosted on Akash. But the one of the things that I realized is that even if it's cheaper, companies will not put effort into it if it takes more time to do the transition, because you have to always measure time, effort, and cost. They prefer to develop more features for their customers and bring on more revenue to alleviate the cost of the cloud infrastructure. So I think at some point the user experience needs to be good enough to be it worth it to do the transition, or at least try to do the transition, and or at least partially do some transitions and stuff. So, yeah,
that's actually, that leads me to my next question, because you guys are actually one of the first to put user experience as a core development philosophy. Very few companies or even software developers put UX at the center, because many teams, they want to build great software, right? But they forget they're building for humans. And I think Cloudmos has a core software development philosophy, has put user experience first. So the SDL builder, for example, that will be a game changer, and period. And I was going to ask you, what inspired that?
Well, it's my second startup that I started, and in the first one it failed, but I learned a ton, and I learned how users behave with a product that you create. And like you said, most of the builders are sometimes, well, it's a bit of a meme, I guess, that the engineers are not necessarily the best UX because they build from their point of view and they think for them it's simple. But when you show that to a random user, they don't understand anything, and they just leave your app 2 seconds after opening it, and you don't have any, the bounce rate is super high. But so yeah, I learned, what inspired me, I guess, is just the potential that Akash and crypto has is so immense and so good for, I think, everyone in the future. It's worth taking, I think, the effort and time to make it easy to use and good UX. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's very, as usual, insightful. So finally, what advice would you give anyone looking to transition from Web 2 into Web 3 and blockchain development?
For someone that has zero knowledge of blockchain, for example? Your question? Yeah.
Either one.
Either. Oh. Well, for sure. If I think about how I first experienced the blockchain and how I learned through it, I think it's the first step is to actually understand the technology, especially if we're talking about a software engineer that has no idea how Web3 works or how a blockchain works. So, and just play around with it. So first I suggest to create a wallet on one of the popular wallets out there. So for example, Coinbase, and just buy some Bitcoin or some Ethereum or directly some Atom. But if you do buy some Bitcoin or Ethereum, I think it's a good experience to be aware of, like the big players or big blockchains out there that are going to be there on the long run. But just be aware that there's an ecosystem, and then from there, swap your way to the Atom ecosystem. If we're talking about learning the Cosmos ecosystem, I think it's going to be so big in the future, and it's already big because like majority of the top 100 crypto projects out there, or a lot of them, are Cosmos SDK blockchains. So it's there's like a ton of ways to swap your way around to the Atom ecosystem, and then once you're there, just understand first what is staking, what what's the difference between a proof of work and a proof of stake blockchain. I'd go on the Cosmos documentation, the Cosmos SDK documentation. It's like one of the best kind of clear documentation that I've seen ever. And just read it through a little bit. They explain roughly how the Cosmos-based blockchain works, even though if you don't, because probably you don't understand everything when you done the first read, but at least you're aware of the concepts and how things generally work. And yeah, just be aware of how blockchains work. And then after that, it's easier to dive deeper in other projects or other, because each project you can dive in deeper. They all have their own use case, and just get involved. Really, there's like a ton of people available to help you learn. Like everyone's super welcoming, especially in the Cosmos ecosystem. I feel like everyone's super welcoming, and if you are willing to learn, there's no reason other than not doing it to be able to learn the Web3 blockchain development stuff.
All right. So I'm going to ask a few questions. I'm going to give you 3 options, and you pick one. And it's going to go very quickly. You ready?
Sure.
Okay. A sports car. You got to pick one. A sports car, like say a Porsche. Okay, a Porsche, a horse, or a PS3.
So the options are a sports car, a horse, or a PS3. Probably take the sports car, yeah.
Okay. If you could meet one of 3 people, you pick one. Vitalik, Charles Hoskinson from Cardano, or John McAfee?
John McAfee is the one that died, right, in the cell block, right?
Correct. But if they were all alive and you had to pick one.
I'd go with Vitalik. I am really hesitant between Vitalik and John McAfee because he has an intriguing story, and probably a lot of things that some of the things that he said. I don't know. I don't know all the details, but yeah, I'd go with Vitalik.
Justin Trudeau, Barack Obama, or King Charles?
King Charles.
All right. That's awesome. Well, Maxime, it's been a total pleasure having you on this, and looking forward to another episode. At some point in the near future, I will have you back because we are keeping up to date on what's going on at Cloudmos. And as always, thank you. Thank you. Any final words?
Thanks to you, Lonnie. It's been a pleasure to do that podcast with you. Very, very fun to talk to. And thanks to you for being for creating the Akash Accelerator and having us part of it means a lot. And it's super nice to have that kind of surrounding.
Awesome. My pleasure.